thinking about buying a home but worried about overpaying? 38% of people who purchased homes in 2023 and 2024 admit to overpaying for their home. Even worse, almost half, 47% of people who bought homes during that same time say they're over their heads financially since they've made the purchase. An astonishing 44% of people have taken on extra debt just to maintain their lifestyle after buying their home.
You remember when they were telling us to eat cereal for dinner? Well, now Zillow's advertising that friends should come together in order to buy a house. Isn't that awesome?
Whether you're looking to downsize, invest, or for your forever home, you don't have to break the bank. In today's video, we are talking about some strategies so you can get the best deal on your next home purchase. So the first strategy is location, location, location. And I know this sounds cliche because everybody says location, but I'm going to show you exactly how to use location to get the best deal. And when I'm talking about location, I am not talking about buying in the nicest neighborhood. In fact, buying in the nicest neighborhood is probably going to hurt your appreciation. So how you're going to find the best location for the best deal is to go to neighborhoodscouts.com and look at the crime map. And you are going to see the dark areas are the higher crime areas and the lighter areas is the low crime areas. They're going to be your nicer neighborhoods. Just know that on these crime maps, every city is going to have a dark purple and a very light, and it's rated on that city's crime. So a city with lower crime is going to have those dark purples aren't going to be as bad as crime as maybe somewhere like Memphis, Tennessee. So just because you see dark purple, don't get freaked out. And then you're going to go and you're going to click on the little real estate map, and you are going to see where homes are appreciating the most and where they are not appreciating that much. And when you lay these two maps over each other, you are going to find areas that have some crime but are appreciating quickly. These are the neighborhoods that are turning, and these are the neighborhoods where you are going to find some great deals. Just decide on how far you want to go on those scales, and you are going to find a great neighborhood to buy your next home. Using neighborhoodscout.com is one of my favorite ways to evaluate appreciation happening in a city. Okay, the next tip is to look for off-market properties, and I would take this a little bit with a grain of salt because I see a lot of off-market properties that are just way overpriced. And I think the mindset of some sellers who have off-market properties is they don't want to use an agent because they want to save fees and they want to get the most bang for their buck. So just know that because it's off-market doesn't mean it's necessarily a good deal. A lot of these off-market sellers, they will work with buyer's agents, and I highly recommend it that you have some sort of agent involved in this deal just to make sure that everything's going to go smoothly and you don't get a title or a home that is going to be a headache down the road. If you are looking at an off-market property, you need to have your agent run a CMA for you. That stands for a competitive market analysis. And they are going to compare all of the homes in that neighborhood with similar attributes to the home, size, and what they have sold for. Ask your agent. They need to be sharing these with you so you can decide what is a good price to be offering on these homes. Ways to find off-market properties, you're either going to have to just drive through neighborhoods and look for signs and yards. Some of the online platforms do have a toggle that you can get onto that shows off-market properties. So that's how to find those. There's also going to be other types of off-market properties, and these are going to be distressed properties. So foreclosures, short sales, tax auctions, and you can find these in a few different places. First and foremost is your county courthouse. They are going to have some sort of listing of notification of these tax auctions. There's been a couple of emerging websites. Bidforassets.com has been a really big one for county foreclosures, and auction.com has a little bit more of the bank foreclosures on them. Just know these are bidding platforms, so you are going to need cash to play the game. One thing to be very careful about when you are looking at these auction properties is that you are looking at the title report. There can be things on the title such as back child support, contractor's lien, unpaid utilities that can be attached to that deed. And if you purchase a home that these types of liens are on the deed, you are going to be responsible for them. So make sure that you know what you're doing. If you're going that route, have a realtor help you. Just check in to make sure that you are not buying a headache. You definitely don't want to be stuck with somebody else's debt. Also, keep in mind that if you are purchasing a foreclosure or a short sale, which can be done as a traditional sell with a real estate agent, and you can typically get financing on these, that they take a long time to close, like 3 to 6 months. And that's just because there's a lot of paperwork and bureaucracy that happens with them. Okay, the next thing that you can do to get good deals on homes is negotiate the price. And of course, the simplest would just be offer less than what they're asking. That's one way to go about it, but there's other ways to go about this. So always get a home inspection. And when you have that home inspection, when major repairs come up, or any repairs really, say the roof needs to be replaced or a deck needs to be replaced, have contractors come in and give you bids for these, because this is what happens. The buyer thinks that a new roof is going to cost $60,000, and the seller is going to think that a new roof costs $5,000. Having that contractor's bid is proof in the pudding of what exactly it's going to cost, and then you can ask for a price reduction based on that. It's really hard to argue facts. There is also a way that you can use the inspection, and I'll get a little bit further into that a little bit down the video. Okay, next thing to make sure you're never overpaying. Always get an appraisal. I'm seeing more and more lenders that are offering loans with no appraisals, and this is not good. You need an appraisal, and you also need to make sure that your agent is writing in your contract that you are not going to pay an appraisal gap. That is when appraisal gap is when you have a $400,000 offer on a home and then it comes in at $375,000. Somebody has to come up with that extra $25,000. Either the seller needs to drop their price or the buyer has to come up $25,000. You don't want to do that. Make sure that that is in your contract, and always get an appraisal. Okay, I have to talk about lending and financing because the reality of it is this has such a huge impact on how much you're actually paying for a home. I know we see the sticker price, say a home is $480,000, and you think that that's what you're paying. But if you have a traditional, conventional loan at a 6.5% rate with 20% down, you're actually paying over $900,000 for that loan. So there are ways to structure your financing to really make a difference with this. Just a little housekeeping really quickly. I am not a lender, and this is not financial advice, but this should give you some different things to think about when thinking about the loan of your home. First off, I'm going to talk about my love-hate relationship with FHA, VA, and USDA loans. These loans are all government backed, and they have their place. They can help people get into homes that don't have a lot of down payment. But nothing is for free, and it comes at a cost. You are going to find likely that these loans are going to have higher fees associated with them and higher interest rates. Talk to your lender about the different choices of this. Furthermore, if you come into any loan without putting 20% down, you are going to be paying PMI. PMI is private mortgage insurance, and this can be charged at a rate of anywhere from 0.19% to 2.25% interest on top of your mortgage rate already. It's very expensive, and it is very hard to get rid of. I'm going to tell you, on our first home, we had a no down mortgage, and we had PMI on it for years. We finally had enough equity to get rid of the PMI, and after years of sending the bank letters in the mail, emails, phone calls, We never got it removed off of our mortgage. It's a headache. Not having that 20% down is really like throwing money into the garbage. And what private mortgage insurance does is it protects the bank. It doesn't really do much for you. Basically, if you default on the loan of the house, now the bank can go back to its insurer or the private mortgage insurance that you've been paying for them to recoup some of those debts. So at all cost, try and come to the table with 20% down and not have PMI. Now, here is the part of the government-backed loans that I absolutely love, and that is they are assumable. So the golden handcuffs in real estate right now is obviously sellers don't want to sell because they have incredible interest rates. Whether they bought the house in the last few years or they refinanced, there are mortgages out there anywhere from 2 to 4.5%, which is awesome. And you can get your hands on them. When you are purchasing a home, you should be asking on every deal if the seller's mortgage can be assumed. And any VA, USDA, or FHA loans can be assumed, which means you can take on that mortgage that they had. The downside is you do need a little bit of cash to do this or a second loan. So how this works is, say they have a $400,000 assumable mortgage on their house and now the home is worth $500,000. Well, you're gonna need something to cover that $1,000 or $100,000 gap. If you can score an assumable mortgage, you are gonna be sitting pretty golden. Another way to get a good deal using lending, and this is kind of not necessarily using lending, but if you have cash to buy the house up front, there's a good chance that the seller is going to discount the price for you just a little bit so they don't have to go through the headache of dealing with an appraisal or any of the constraints that a loan could come with. So buying the house for with cash and then refinancing it is a great way to go about getting a deal on a home. The next thing, timing of the market. And I know people tell you you can't time the real estate market. And that's true in the long scheme of things. We don't know when there's going to be a crash, or we have idea looking at economics, blah, blah, blah. But you actually can time the market on an annual basis. Every market has a cyclical cycle. And this is going to depend on where you are looking to buy. Also, why it's really important to have a hyperlocal real estate agent. If you need a real estate agent to somewhere that you're relocating to, click the link in the description of this video, fill out the form, and I'll get back to you to figure out what your needs are and get you connected to a really good agent in that market. Okay, so these markets, they fluctuate, and I'm going to tell you it's going to depend. So if you are looking at maybe a retirement community in Florida, buying in January and February, that's their peak season, and that's when you're going to see most competition in the market. However, if you are looking at homes in the summertime when there's less people there, like Arizona, you're going to find better deals. In my market, in the Wenatchee area, most people buy in the spring and early summer, and then it starts to taper off in fall. Typically, across the nation, the absolute best time to really purchase real estate is going to be during the holidays. It is right now. It is the months of November and December because people are distracted with families and get-togethers, and there's just not a lot of buyers in the market. So it is a really good time to have tough negotiation or a lot of negotiation power for you, the buyer. The only downside to this is typically by this time of year, the inventory has dwindled, but your real estate agent can go back into the MLS and look at all of the listings that didn't sell, the ones that canceled or expired, and you can go back and approach them and see if they're willing to work a deal. Okay, the next tip is gonna sound a little bit crazy, but here it goes. Pay more for the house. I know this is a video about paying less for houses, but hear me out on this. You can offer to pay a little bit more for a house and ask the seller to buy down your rate with that money. Remember when I was talking about the inspection and we were talking about having the contractor and saying how much something is worth? Well, instead of asking for that money off of the house, you can also ask them to apply that to a rate buy down. And depending on how long you plan on owning this home, this can actually have the most impact on the savings of this home. Okay, I am going to explain a little bit how this works. So we're going to take a $400,000 loan. And at a 6.5% interest rate, that house is actually costing you about $910,000 for the lifetime of the loan. Half a point or 0.5% of a rate buy down on this loan is going to cost approximately $8,000. Now, you can either offer the home over sale price that much and ask them to put that back to rate buy down, or you can use it as a negotiation tool in your inspection. By doing this, you now have a 6% interest rate, and saving that 0.5% interest rate will save you over $46,000 in interest alone on the home. So, depending on how long you are going to be living in the home, a few $1,000s up front can save you a lot down the road. The next way to save or get a good deal on the home is going to take a little bit of sweat equity, but it will be well worth it. What I'm talking about is looking for homes that are a little bit less desirable because of maybe their floor plan. Maybe it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. We all know 3-bedroom, 2-bath is the most desirable. These 2-bedroom, 1-bath homes, they sell for a little bit less, but if it has the square footage, you can add a bedroom or add a bathroom, or if you're willing to change the home to be a little bit more desirable, you are going to make a lot of equity. And there's a loan out there that you can use to do that. It is a rehab loan. There's a ton that you can do with these loans. You can build a fence, you can build a deck, you can change the roof. Doing this and adding a little TLC to the home can really help make sure that you are appreciating, you're adding equity, and it is a great way to know that you're not going backwards in the home. If I was trying to get the best deal on a home right now in this market, I would be looking at the neighborhood scout maps and figuring out which areas are appreciating. I would be looking for assumable mortgages, and I would be buying right now in November and December. That's how I would be finding the best deal in this market. I'm Amanda Dallman. I'm your no BS real estate resource. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next week.